You're listening to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guests. And I got to tell you, people, I was out yesterday, and my neighbors already put up their Christmas lights, which really irritates me because it's way too early. And it's not like just regular Christmas lights. It's like the whole nativity scene and everything. So please wait a little bit. I went to the store before Halloween looking for stuff, and it was all Christmas stuff. Just wait. Give us time. Anyway, we have a great show today. My guest is a very talented gentleman. He got a solo career. He was guitarist for Frankie Goes To Hollywood. My guest is Brian Nash. How you doing, Brian?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you live over there in England. Did they start up with all the Christmas stuff really early too?
Yeah, it's usually in the shops. I think the supermarkets usually start stocking it the day after Halloween. So it is, if you were going around supermarkets now, you would probably hear all the Christmas tunes being played.
It's insane.
One of our old ones is usually included as well. I have been out doing a bit of Christmas shopping and heard the power of love occasionally booming through a crappy PA system in a shop.
It's insane. So now I got to ask you. It's funny. You go by Nasher now, which is funny because my last name's Cooper and everybody calls me Cooper. Have you always been called Nasher?
I was called that when I was in school, and I don't know really. It's most people call me Nasher, but they feel like it's I don't know, Brian. Brian's just a bit lame, isn't it? You know, I don't know anybody who likes their Christian name. Do you like your Christian name?
You know what? I'm called Steve, but all my life everybody's called me my last name Cooper, so I'm pretty much used to it. I went to one of my friend's fathers passed away, and I went to the memorial service yesterday, and I met my friend's wife's mom, and I introduced myself as Steve. She had no idea who I was, and then his wife says, "Oh, that's Cooper," and she goes, "Oh, okay." So I'm used to it, so I like it.
Yeah, I like Cooper as a first name.
Yeah, well,
it's quite a cool first name.
And a lot of dogs have been named Cooper lately.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got to ask you. You're a musician. You're as I say. You've had a lifetime career in music. When did you start? And when did you get into music? Because me and you were the same age, and I know growing up in America, I caught on to like the different English 80s bands, but in the early days I was a kid of classic rock. What were your influences when you were a kid, and what made you pick up the guitar?
I'll tell you, the real changer for me and for a lot of people in Merseyside, like when you're in school and that, you're listening to all kinds of stuff because you're borrowing records off guys in your class, some of whom had older brothers. And you'd be listening, that's how you'd find out about your Led Zeppelins and your Deep Purples and Rush and stuff like that. And but the real game changer, I think, for me as a musician or something that made me want to be a musician was punk and specifically going to the Eric's Club in Liverpool, which is a famous punk club, that spawned Tears Up Explodes, Big in Japan, Echo and the Bunnymen, Orchestral Maneuvers, the list goes on. And all of the, it's at the time that was happening, towards the, from about 1977, 78 through to about 82, they started doing matinee shows for under 16. So whoever was playing on a Saturday night would do a matinee show and, get double their money basically for performing. And, the first time I went to see a band called Magazine at a matinee. And, previous to that, pop stars or bands that you liked played in big theatres and they were kind of inaccessible and unless you wanted to hang around the stage door in the freezing cold for hours afterwards. Going to these matinee shows at Eric's, it made it seem like, these guys who turned up and played, they just looked like us, and it made it seem like it was achievable, that you could become a musician. I mean, some of the bands I saw, like The Cure, when The Cure were promoting Three Imaginary Boys, 5 other kids, 16-year-olds, seeing them, skids, stiff little fingers, wire, seeing the first ever Teardrop Explodes gig, and it was just, and no sooner have you felt part of this club that it was closed down on spurious charges by the local council for supposed drug dealing happening going on in there, which was a fallacy, and that was what made me want to be in a band. Punk made it.
What was the
possible?
What was the punk? What was the punk scene like for you? I mean, was it like they say it was divided? There was punks, there was mods, or was that just a fallacy? What was it like being a young guy into punk in England?
Well, see, whilst being into punk and wearing safety pins in your jacket and anti-Nazi League and Rock Against Racism badges, I was still listening to stuff like The Who and all that. I've never been a musical fascist. Apart from now, I just hate everything. But back then it was. I have fantastic arguments to this day with my brother-in-law who was a punk, and he grew up and he's seen the Clash play over 50 times when he was a kid. He was a couple of years older than me, and you try to talk to him about something, and he goes like, "Nah, they were the enemy," and I was saying, "Man, you can't be so closed," But it's always a debate, isn't it, about music? I mean, whilst it unites a lot of us, I mean, especially back when I was a kid, there's that whole concept which is completely disappears from what I can make out amongst young people of sitting around together in a room and listening to music. Listening to music now has become largely a solitary participation. Everyone's got their earplugs in when they're on the tube or they're going to work, and music is not. I don't think you have that communal thing of people sitting down together, and that's probably because you can't skin up on a mobile phone.
Right. Now you'd like to. Now, when did you pick up a guitar for the first time?
I would have been about, I'm guessing about 12 or 13. My cousin, Mark O'Toole, who was the bass player in Frankie, both him and his two brothers, Jared and Vincent, played in a band. They were called Mark II because the guy who played drums was Mark and Mark was on bass. So when Mark O'Toole was about 13 years old, they were doing gigs in social clubs around Liverpool, and that was I used to sit in the O'Toole bedroom and listen to them play, and Mark showed me the first handful of chords, and then you're off and running and you're listening to your records and trying to work out how to play the intro to Alternative Ulster by Stiff Little Fingers and all the other belter tunes from back in the day. But that's what started it for me. And I see that thing with punk as well, it was that it took the A-levels out of music, that it wasn't really about playing all the right notes in the right order. It was about playing some notes in any order with a load of attitude, and it made the whole DIY ethic of punk, from people making their own sleeves and putting their own records out, it made it seem real. You didn't need a record deal.
Now, so you're playing guitar. Now, when is the early formation of Frankie Goes to Hollywood? I believe you were in the early formation, then you left and came back. How did the whole band start?
Well, what happened? I was in a band with Peter Gill and Mark O'Toole's brother Jared, and we were rehearsed. There was an old Victorian police station in Liverpool, and a lot of bands used to rehearse in there. So you would have people swapping bands, like, I don't like them anymore, I've moved on and I'm going to be in with this other band, and all the cells, the bands used to rehearse in the cells. So me and Ped and Jed O'Toole were in a band, and then Jed O'Toole left, and and then Holly came in, and then Ped left, and Ped started doing some stuff with Mark O'Toole, and Jed then joined them on guitar, and then Holly joined them. So like, I guess it would have been about 1982 in this, where this police cell was. It was in the city centre, but there was nothing around at that time. There was the buildings all around it were all derelict. And I remember the first time hearing Mark and Ped playing together. They were playing what would become Two Tribes out in the courtyard of this building, and that was kind of Mark was a big fan. Both Mark and Ped were big fans of Bow Wow Wow, so that was the kind of thing they were going for. Was like a very bass and drum heavy backing tracks really, and the guitar was just a few power chords over the top of it. And then they were doing a couple of gigs, and Jed, it seemed like this thing was going to become quite serious and moving on, in a direction with more than just being in a band in a rehearsal room. That they were going to try and get a record deal and all that. And Jed had a young lad, and he had a job, and he stepped aside, and I took his place, and that was that, really.
Now, how did you guys start becoming popular? What do you think it was, and what was it like recording the early music?
Well, to be honest, it was in terms of getting signed. You hear about bands playing for years and years before getting a sniff of a record deal, but I think we only did about maybe a dozen gigs when I was in the band, if that, really, before we got signed. Because we had the two girls dressed up in all the leather. There's some footage of that out on the internet now. The very first video we did, which actually I wasn't in, Jed was in that video. The very first Hope and Anchor video, which was like a kind of one camera shoot, and our manager at the time was a guy called Bob Johnson. He was looking after the Ruts and Aztec Camera, and he was taking this VHS cassette around to various record labels, and he said like, oh, the A&R guy, let's go to the video conference room, to watch this. And people had actually heard about this video because the music industry is quite an incestuous thing, so if these A&R guys, they all hang out together, they're all keeping each other in a job, they're all turning each other onto the same bands to protect their positions. If they don't sign the band, at least they were in the running, so everybody kind of was hearing about this video with the semi-naked women, and none of the major labels would touch it because of the gay angle, with Holly and Paul being quite overtly fruity, I would say, at the front of the band. And it's kind of easy to forget how conservative times were then. Being gay was, it wasn't received as it is these days, is it? It was seeing something being a bit wrong with you or what have you, and so it's when we end up getting offered this deal by Trevor Horn and starting his new label, and whilst we all had quite varied tastes between the five members of the band, in terms of production, he was one who we thought, if we could ever get a record deal, he'd be the guy who we'd want to produce it, because his records sounded fantastic. And we're basing this on things like the Dollar, the stuff he did with Dollar, and also with Malcolm McLaren, and then like just before they signed us, of course, the work with ABC, and they were fantastic sounding records, and with a real grandeur about them. You could tell a Trevor Horn production at the time. So when it turns out that he wants to sign us, it seemed like a perfect fit, apart from the fact that it was the worst deal in the world. But band to sign a terrible deal, and I'm sure we weren't the last. And it was a case of, well, look, none of the majors really want to touch you. This is what's on the table, so it's up to you. The lawyer says the deal stinks, but it's the deal that stinks or no deal at all. So we took the deal that stinks, and the rest is history. Now,
what made the deal so bad? Was it just residuals or cutting? What made it so bad?
The percentages of it, but I mean, the thing what a lot of people don't understand about the recording industry is they think that, like, if you get a number one record and someone goes in the shop and buys that single for £1, then that pound note goes to the band. But it doesn't really work like that, it's the bad thing about the deal, really in a nutshell, is we were signed to ZTT, which meant the budget for recording anything was as much as they wanted it to be, and we were recording in their studios. So, by the end of the band, we made the second album, but we incurred recording costs of £800,000, and most of that was done with Trevor messing about in the studio for 6 months, throwing feces at the wall, I'll be polite, I won't swear, and seeing what sticks. And of course, we have no, if he was doing a deal, if he was doing another ABC record, and he'd have been doing that for Phonogram, he'd have been given a budget of, you've got £100,000 to make this record, and when you spent that money, that record's finished. Whereas having his own studio, he was allowed to spend as much as he liked. And of course, once we had the initial success with Relax, that kind of gave him carte blanche to spend that money. And to be fair, you're not really, I'm 20 years old, 2021, Mark Compatible 20. You're not really keeping an eye on that kind of thing at the time. And they were very nice to our original manager. They kind of froze him out because he'd be the guy going, hey, what about these costs? You're spending thousands and thousands of pounds here. And basically they just refused to deal with him, and we were kind of presented with a fait accompli, really. We've got to get rid of the manager, because the manager, and to be fair, he could have made it very, very awkward for all of us, and he didn't. He just walked away from it. He went, look, I love all you lads. I love you lads, and I'm made up that it's happening for you, but I can't be involved in this because it's going to be to your detriment. And he kind of stepped away from it, which kind of suited ZTT a little bit. But I'm in my 50s now. I can't be really looking over my shoulder about things that happened years ago. Where we are is where we are, and how things happen. It's the sliding doors thing, isn't it, Steve? If you go another way, who's to say what the success you had would have ever happened? And the success was down to that whole mixture of the three lads in the band, with what the music they liked, with Holly and Paul, and with what Trevor Horn and other musicians brought to the table in that, and the technology at the time. And looking back at it now, the only thing that pisses me off, and probably a couple of the other guys, is that nobody gives us credit for anything, and that's kind of hard to take, when you've got people telling you can't play, and it's like, well, I would never claim to be Jeff Beck, but I'd like to see somebody stand next to Mark O'Toole when he played that bass solo in the middle of Born to Run, tell him he couldn't play. He just stuck a Fender Precision round the head. And, this whole idea of us being the puppets of ZTT, and it was all down to him. He didn't sell the records. He didn't write the records. We were the ones who went out and sold this thing. We weren't the monkeys. We didn't turn up at an audition. We're going to get 2 gay guys and 3 lunatics. And that's kind of disappointing. But these things live on, don't they? And I've kind of got to the point where I'm tired of correcting people.
Oh yeah.
Anymore.
Well, it's funny because you say they live on, and I recently saw one with the Frankie Says Relax shirt. What was it like for you, though, when you're 20 years old and Relax is just blowing up? I mean, it must have changed your life drastically. And how do you keep your head together at 20? Because there's probably every bad thing and bad thing in a good way was probably thrown at you.
Well, I'd put that question back to you, Steve. I'd say if you're 20 years old, everywhere you go, somebody wants to take you out to a party. You're going around the world. You're on top of the pops. You know, when Two Tribes come off, we were on top of the pop. I think it was number one for 9 weeks. We were on top of the pops like 5 of those 9 weeks, and it was like you don't really have time to reflect on what this is happening. You know, you just turn around at the mates and the guys in your band going, "This is great, isn't it? This is great." And it's only afterwards that you look back on it and go, "Wow, you know, that was pretty amazing what we done." I mean, it was interesting when I come to write my autobiography. Of that, like the amount of information that is out there now, that is just a click away for you to be able to just, you know, look back and check things. But at the time, you're just in the eye of the hurricane, and you don't know how long this hurricane's going to be spinning for. So you're just on it and enjoying it. You know, it's there was no casualties really. You know, I know that people. You know, that people get involved in drinking drugs, but you know, I think a lot of people who go down that way, and I don't say this as a criticism. It's like addiction is an illness for people, and if you have that within you, you know, whether it's shopping or it's a bag of glue, or if it's cocaine, or if it's heroin, or it's alcohol. I think if you've got to have good support from the people around you, and it's about the people who brought you up, and that's kind of like what defines you, isn't it, as a person? And you find a lot of people who slip into addictions are trying to fill holes for something that they haven't got in the first place, I guess, or they're running away from something or trying to block out something, and I don't think any of us had that. You know, whilst Holly and Paul haven't been, you know, being openly gay in Liverpool in the late 1970s couldn't have been very easy. They both handled it very well, and you know, it's not something that's going to spinning off. It's just the only downside of it is you think it's going to last forever, and of course nothing lasts forever, does it?
No. Well, it's funny you had mentioned Paul and Holly being gay. Did that reflect upon you too? Because as you said, being gay back then, it wasn't a thing. Like now, it's fine, and it's always been fine, but people weren't out about it. Did people think you were gay, and did you get a different kind of crowd? And did you guys get hassled at some shows because you had two gay people in the band?
Do you know what it was? I remember my mother asking me if I was gay because it was in the sun, and I said, "No, Mum, I'm not," and that was the end of that. In terms of me being in a band with two gay guys, I was brought up to respect people. My father was a staunch trade unionist, and you know, someone who really believed in equal rights regardless of race, creed, colour, or orientation. You know, and they're just people. I think that's what it is. Whether they're black, they're gay, whatever, they're just people. And I think that tolerance is something that is billboards and turning up outside your gigs with billboards. But we were playing, comparatively small venues really, compared to like what Culture Club and that were doing. So, and the people who were into us were they were largely Anglophiles, probably like yourself, who had an eye on what was coming out of the British Isles and that kind of music. And people who were looking across the oceans to find different kind of vibes are usually pretty tolerant people. If their ears are open to something thousands of miles away, then so are their arms and their hearts. That's how I kind of look at it.
Right now, let me ask you. We had talked about the earlier in your career. What was it like for you to be on top of the Pops? I mean, because everyone seems to who lives in England has grown up with that show. What is it like to be on it?
It's amazing. It was because that was the church. That was your church from the age you were into music. Was you would be watching Top of the Pops on a Thursday night, and you'd be sitting there in front of the TV with a little crappy cassette recorder, telling your mum, stroke dad, stroke sister to shut up because you were trying to record Slade off the telly through a little condenser mic. But at the first time we did Top of the Pops, one of the reasons I picked up a guitar because I was a huge Slade fan. And of course, this is back in the mid-70s. And I think it was we first did Top of the Pops in about December 1983. And what had happened during that summer, Slade had had a bit of a comeback. I think they'd been on tour in America with Ozzy Osbourne. And I think Ozzy had pulled out of playing Reading because he wasn't well, and Slade played. And they absolutely smashed it, and it led to like a bit of a rebirth, and they were on Top of the Pops doing My Oh My. So here's me on Top of the Pops in the bar, upstairs on the roof, me and Mark O'Toole standing at the bar talking to Jimmy Lee and Don Powell, and they're talking to us like we're their contemporaries, We're not just these like rag asses from Liverpool. Oh yeah, mate, I heard your song and all that. Yeah, it's great. And it was that was incredible. Being in the studio itself, it was very small, and there doesn't appear to be a lot of people in there. And they would all get pushed from one stage to the other. It was a very long day. You would have to do about 6 rehearsals so you'd be in there from about say 9:30 in the morning, and you would start, and then you'd have 3 or 4 camera rehearsals, and then there'd be a dress rehearsal, and then you would actually maybe another dress rehearsal with the cameras, and then you would actually record the show. I think it used to go out. It used to record it on a Wednesday, and it would go out on the Thursday. But to go to the BBC, to be turning up there in a limousine was fantastic. It was, as you say, this is the way you'd seen your Roxy Musics and your David Bowies and Slade and Gary Glitter and Mods and all of these bands that formed your music taste and formed your youth, and now you're in the church, and there are going to be 13, 14, 15-year-olds watching you perform, and they're going to be feeling the same thing as you did 10 years previously. That's a major buzz. It is a major buzz.
Now, Relax was such a big hit, and it got banned from some English radio. Do you look back on that now and think it's a joke because all the stuff they get away with now?
Yeah, but that's kind of times, isn't it? It's like I was saying before. We live in very different times now. Things are a lot more liberal, and people are kind of a lot more accepting in most parts of the world. I'm not sure if that's the case in parts of Trump's America,
right.
Or even parts of Nigel Farage's UK, mate. I can't be alleging that at yourself and your country. country without having it back here. But it's I listen to songs and lyrics in songs and think why this was banned. Well, actually, the thing with it being banned from the BBC, it had already been played a load of times, and it was basically, I think what had happened is Mike Reid had come home from work, and he was the DJ who'd thrown it across the studio. He had a fit of pique. He'd come home from work and was found his kids watching the video that was banned, you know, which was quite homoerotic, shall we say. And I think that the fact that he got upset by it, and because he was such a big DJ at the time, it was felt that the BBC had to back him because of his outrage. When really, I think maybe the gay angle was something to do with it. But it wasn't really banned. They said it was withdrawn from the playlist. And you know, and a year later, we actually played it on Top of the Pops, and you know, the people who worked at Top of the Pops, predominantly Michael Hale, who was the producer, was fantastic to us, you know, and it was requested that we did the end of the year show, and he said, "Will you play Relax?" And our initial thing was, you know, like, no, we won't. We've been banned from playing it on the BBC, and then our manager said, "Look, you know, the people at that Top of the Pops have never done you bad. They all love having you on the show. They give you a bit of free rein to do the odd thing here and there." I mean, there was an episode of Top of the Pops where it went out live, and it's only just kind of surfaced recently. It was we were doing Two Tribes, and we pulled guns out on stage, like fake, you know, replica handguns, and of course Michael Hale's put his hand up and gone, "Oh, it's absolutely outrageous, you know, it's terrible that the band has done this." But secretly, he was delighted because he knows it's going to make great television and people are really going to be talking about this. And he's absolutely powerless to do anything to stop it because of the time it went out. It was going out live, which is why we did it. And whilst he might have faced the Director General of the BBC and said, like, "Oh, you know, it's shocking and all that," I know for a fact he was absolutely delighted with it. You know, he was very pleased with us pulling the guns out because it makes for great TV, doesn't it? It's controversy. It's I say that clip had been missing for years. It's only on the BBC iPlayer, BBC 4 on Saturday nights over here. They've been rerunning all the old Top of the Pops, and it surfaced again, and I think it's out there. But it was, I think we did Top of the Pops 5 times for Two Tribes, and it was the last one that we did. And I say it had never been seen, you know, it had never been shown before on TV, so it's good that it's out there again. That's what happens when you know you're miming on TV and someone turns up with too much cocaine in the dressing room.
Now, I want to ask you too, you had all your songs were going to #1 when the album came out. Does that make you have a feeling of invincibility as a band?
Well, like, I think of it, it's not just as a band, mate. When you're 20, 21 years old, you think you're invincible anyway. And throw you know, three #1 records under your belt. You're now Superman. You know, you think you are invincible. But as I said to you earlier, though, you don't really have time to think about it because it's only when I look back at it now and see the achievements of having a #1 that was Two Tribes at #1 for 9 weeks, and then on the back of that, Relax going back up the charts and having #1 and #2. The only other person who's done that was John Lennon, and he had to die before that happened, you know. So I think those achievements, I'm very proud of those kind of things. They're the things that will last forever. And because, like, the chart is basically irrelevant now, you know, it's there. It's like frozen in amber forever. And the things we achieved and the sales we achieved were, you know, they're the things that will live on and what people
Now, I want to ask you, as you said, it was a crazy time because I'm a guy from the 80s too. Tell me, in the height of the band's success, tell me one of the craziest stories of something that happened to you.
The craziest story. I think. No, there was a few, but I think one of the. No, there's just there are way too many. A crazy story. Let's see. I'd say probably one of the highlights all the way through our world tour, which terminated in Japan. Our road crew had been learning to play relax. All the techs and that, they could all play. So when we finished the final gig the last gig in Japan, the crew said, well, the encore would be relaxed and the stage would be in darkness and there would be a spotlight on Holly and he would go and do his thing and then the track would start. So we go back out for the encore and Holly walks out and he's speaking to the crowd and he doesn't realise that we've all left and the crew have taken over the instruments. And actually, we're now in the front row, in front of him. And he's oblivious to this. He's just singing a song. He hasn't turned round. And then when he does turn round, he realises that the crew are playing the instruments. And then all the other members of the crew have just come on stage. And he looks down in the front of the stage, and there's me, Mark, Pez, and Paul, all just flipping him the bird. And because the audience see all of these people on stage, this is kind of like a cue for a stage invasion, which is something that never happens in Japan. You know, they're all so incredibly reserved. You know, they used to applaud the lights changing colour and stuff like that. You know, it was weird. So next minute we got this whole stage invasion, and Holly drops the microphone and walks off. And the guy who used to do the slide shows on tour, a guy called John Rinaldi, I'll never forget this. John picks up and he was like the quietest guy, you know. He looked like he lived at home with his mum and his cats. But suddenly John Rinaldi picks up the microphone and just starts giving it 10-0. Just, you know, really goes for it. But the whole thing is littered with mad little stories like that, especially before we did a big tour in the UK, because we hadn't done a lot of gigs. It was decided the best thing for us to do would be to go to America at the end of 1984 and go and play some club gigs and get our stagecraft together, and we took our own production to these tiny clubs. You know, we played to places like the Ritz in New York, the Metro in Boston, all of these places where people would just turn up and use the house PA and the house lights. We brought our own lights and staging, and the best thing about being in America at that time was we were accessible. So we were playing these club gigs and people would be hanging around outside and they'd say like, hey, do you want to come back to our campus? You know, I think we were in Philadelphia somewhere, and we basically all had a rule that we would, when you used to check into a hotel, but especially me, Mark and Ped would always hang out together, that you would pick up a book of matches off the reception, and in the back of the book of matches you would have one of us would have $100 bill. And that's your emergency. You're never going to be more than $100 cab ride away from safety. You have the address and the means to get to the address. But some of those times were just incredible. Like, you know, just being taken out to some university campus that's about 40 miles away. And so it's gone, yeah, we got some beers and we got some mushrooms and we're just hanging with these people and the hospitality. You know, the Americans are renowned for their hospitality, and that was the greatest thing. That was the adventure. And for me, whilst I could say I've been to most of the major cities in America, kind of like a U shape from across the bottom and everyone. Your body's incredibly resilient, but I do have a yearning to go back to the States and revisit those places. Like have like a little 6-7 week road trip. And go to the places I haven't been. Like, I've never been to Alabama, never been to Nashville, never been to Vegas. So there's a lot of places that I'd like to go. So maybe at some point in the future I'll do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, what made you guys break up? Everything seemed like it was going great. You were giant. You had these hits. What happened? What was the reason why you broke up?
Because one person was refusing to push the boulder up the hill. That's kind of like, isn't that always the way? Somebody gets ideas above their station. I mean, I could never understand. I don't know yourself, Steve, whether you played sports when you were young or whether you still play sports now. I think if you play sports and you're a team player, you know about being in a team, being part of a team, and solidarity and comradeship. But it took me being 21, 22, you're going up to 23 by the time this whole thing caved in. And you're looking at the guy who's the singer in the band is going, why isn't he like us? And it was hard to understand that you would think like, why is he being like that? He's just being like that because he's horrible. And I never understood. It took me until I read his book, his autobiography, that I understood that some people are just not team players. And again, it goes back to that, to how you brought up. I don't think his brothers and his father were too enamored with the fact that Holly was gay. Being a gay man, a young gay man in Liverpool, would have been incredibly difficult in school. You're terrorised in school every day. You're getting name calls. You're getting the odd beat here and there. So you're not going to be a team player, and that's disappointing. And it's only as you get older and you get a bit more mature and you start to understand these things. And so I've always kind of cut him a bit of slack until recently, and then I just thought, you know what, he's just not a nice person. He's just, I wouldn't, if I never spoke to him again, I wouldn't give a toss. Whereas any of the other guys, absolutely, Paul Rutherford, never had to cross words with him in over 30 years, still speak to him now. Speak to Mark, get the occasional email off Mark, he's my cousin, I'm in touch with him. And Ped, there's odd bits of business that are bands related that come up here and there, different kind of things, and I speak to him and I have the occasional beer with him. But, I've got no desire to speak to him ever again.
Now, when the band broke up, you're a young man. What happens to your identity? Are you lost in those early years because you were so used to being on, a pedestal? Because we put musicians on pedestals. What went through your psyche?
When me, Mark, and Ped decided to carry on with another singer, a guy called Graham Bowles, who's still a good friend of mine, you kind of got this, like, it's like that invincibility. And you think that, we were in this band and we're going to walk into another record deal and it's going to be great. And we got this singer and he's even better than Holly. He's sounds, and he actually wants to be in a band with us. Whereas I think from about the first 3 records, I don't think Holly really did. And then you get that realisation that actually, no, nobody wants to know. And by the way, all that money you thought you had, you haven't got. So, like, within about 3 years, the band splitting up, there was an economic crash in this country. I'd moved from the centre of London to the outside of London, to the suburbs, and basically had to sell my house. Sold the house about 2 weeks before it was due to be repossessed. Sold it with still owing 35 grand and was on the door. I was claiming unemployment benefit and housing benefit, I had a 1-year-old baby and a newborn, and I was living in a rented accommodation and taking my milk tokens down to the supermarket. So that was like a reality check. So it's with having your own property and thinking this is all great, and you realise actually you're not going to make any money because you owe £800,000, which you've got to pay back out of your 8% of retail. So this goes back to what I was saying before, people's understanding of the record business. We didn't make any money from record sales until 5 years after the band had split up, and I ended up getting I was skint, and I was doing a bit of it. I'd gone back to being a self-employed electrician, very good electrician, but terrible businessman. Be going around doing jobs for old women and charging them like a tenner when I've been there all day. Just not a businessman. And so then, in 1992, the Frankie Greatest Hits comes out, and we're on a quarter royalty rate for that because it's a compilation song. We're on 2% of retail, and we've recouped, and I get our first check for record royalties. We'd still got some publishing money in that time because the publishing advance we signed was I think it was about 500 quid between us. It was nothing. So we didn't. By the time Relax was a hit, that had all been recouped. But the record royalty side of it, I get this check comes through, and whilst this recession has wiped me and me missus out, I've suddenly got a check for 50 grand that's come through my door for this Greatest Hits thing, and it enabled us to get back on the housing market, and of course, because of the recession, the housing market was in recession too, so stuff was pretty cheap. Because when this recession happened, I was saying my mortgage doubled from £800 to £1,600 in about 3 days. It was just mental. And both me and my wife said, no, I'm never going to have another mortgage unless I can pay what I'm doing by driving a taxi or something. And then we got this check, and which enabled us to buy a house. We were paid for half of a house, and we got a mortgage for the rest. And I just finished. We just finished paying for it in February. So that's the end of that story.
Now, earlier you said to me, because when we were messaging back and forth, you said you have band practice. I know you've done solo music. Do you have a band now, or what have you been doing since the band broke up?
I've made 4 solo albums, written an autobiography, produced a couple of records, played on a couple of records. My stuff's out there if you want to find it. I've got one more record in me, which is basically, at the time I bought the house, I also was able to get a recording studio sorted, which basically I built myself with a 10 grand investment in equipment, and that kind of enabled me to record my own music and collaborate with other musicians. And I've got one more record. My next record is going to be called Angry and Finchley, because that's where I used to live in London. But it's because I am angry, and when people ask me why I'm angry, my response is, why are you not? There is a lot to be angry about in this country at the minute, and my next record is political, and it's angry, and I think that'll be me done. I'm about to this time next week I'll be starting a training course to become a wedding and funeral celebrant. That's what my new career is going to be, and I'm going to make music for fun like everybody else, instead of I've been guitar on the door of indifference for a very long time, and it's kind of like wearing a bit thin. And recently, I played a couple of gigs with some guys who I played with a while back. If your listeners want to find Nasher and the Soldiers of Love, they're an absolute banging trio of musicians, and we really melt some faces. And it's like, once I've had a taste of that again, I really don't want to go back to playing on my own acoustically, because I'm very good at it, and it's too easy, and it's not as rewarding as playing with a band. It's too easy for me to deliver an 8 out of 10 with it, really. I don't say that like in an arrogant way, but I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm very comfortable in front of an audience and addressing an audience. I don't get nervous, which is why this idea, I think I'm going to marry and bury people instead, and have some fun. But I've just moved back to Liverpool 2 months ago, and there's a gentleman here who's, for me, is the greatest soul singer ever to come out of Liverpool, a guy called Peter Dixie Deary. And I saw him last Christmas, and I said to him, when I come back to Liverpool, I'm coming for you, and I'm going to make a record with you. So we've got a general election coming up in this country in the next 6 weeks, and one of the songs I've written for my next album is called Good Men Do Nothing, with the chorus being evil will thrive when good men do nothing. And it's about homelessness and in this country, and which is absolutely shocking. The amount of homeless people in Liverpool, in London, is appalling in this day and age, that we've got people sleeping on the streets, you know. You have people sticking spikes in the doorways and on park benches to stop people sleeping on them. You know, where are we going? Where are we at as a human race if we can't look after the most vulnerable? And for me, that is definitely the sprouting seeds of Thatcherism in this country, of that no such thing as society. You just worry about yourself, selfishness, and the breakdown of community, and I'm alright Jack, stroke Jacqueline, and I hate that. And so I had this idea that the rehearsal today was just to go through the track with the bass player. So I think we're going to record this track, and I think we're going to release it a couple of days before the election, maybe a week before the election, with the proceeds going to a local homeless charity here, because it absolutely breaks me in half to walk through city centres here. I mean, especially, you know, we have this attitude now, is that, oh, some of them are professional beggars, and it's like, you know what, how dare you try and dilute my compassion, or burst my compassion bubble by making me question everybody I give a coin to, you know what I mean? I walked through Liverpool city centre the other day, and there's 2 guys dressed in camouflage gear, ex-soldiers, sitting out in the pouring rain, sitting on the pavement in the pouring rain. And you think about these people, you know, these people were fighting for the freedom of this country. They've been sent to fight political wars for the elites of this world, the Halliburtons of this world, for people to make money out of overthrowing governments for oil and for personal gain. And, you know, God knows the traumas that they've seen, the nightmares that come to them when they close their eyes and try and sleep. And they're just just left on the side of the road, like, discarded as rubbish. It's absolutely appalling, and I despair at the agenda of the press and the media in this country. The supposed impartial BBC are just an absolute joke, and no more than a barker now for the Conservative Party. And the fevered, to quote my favourite comedian Bill Hicks, the fevered egos. We need to rid the world of these fevered egos, the Trumps, MP. He's been proved to be right, and it's a scandal. It's just shocking. It upsets me, and that's why I'm angry at Finchley. Sorry, Steve, I've gone off on one there.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. Well, we know where your next record's coming from. And, we do deal with the homeless situation over here, too. I lived in L.A. for years, and I just moved back to the Philadelphia area where I grew up 2 years ago. And I see it all the time on Facebook, my friends who have lived in L.A., and I saw it when I was leaving. It's just unbelievable. I try to tell people back here what the homeless scene is out there, and they don't believe it. And it is just crazy. But hopefully your song will raise some money, and you're going to raise some money and give it to the homeless shelters out there, and maybe we'll have a solution in the future.
Oh, mate, it's we really need a revolution, and I have no hope really of a revolution. It's what is required to turn this around is a revolution, and the vested interests. People will be up to our ankles in water, mate, and there'll still be people denying climate change. And what is required to stop this is to stop using oil, and oil props up the finances of the world. Our pensions, from everything, the stuff that's being laid down on the roads, to the pensions and the hedge funds of everything, are all propped up by oil. And we can't suddenly make oil useless overnight. And yet, it is that kind of reaction is what is required. But I think for me, politically in this country, Corbyn is the last one, and he's been smashed for 3 years by a mainstream media who will call him a Jew hater and an anti-Semite, and it's just nonsense. And yet you tell a lie enough, people believe it. There's just that a lie goes around the world before the truth puts its boots on, and this is where we're at. We're at people, and social media doesn't help. Social media people just think because I have a platform to have an opinion, I can put my dumbass bullshit opinion out there. Well, it's and share utter nonsense without fact checking it, and that doesn't help either. People now think they're educated and informed because they read the Daily Mail or the Daily Heil, as I call it, and it's depressing. It really is depressing. The world is not a night. And then you look over the other side of the pond, and we've got, Trump and make America great again. What was it ever great? Was it ever great for most people there? The reason why he's got into power is because it's not great, and because the common man has voted in Republicans and Democrats and switched from side to side and gone, this is bullshit. None of these people do anything for me. So I can see why he would get a shout. Well, we've tried these other clowns.
Right.
Why not? Why not give this clown a go and see how he gets on? And he's just completely changed the game. He just says outrageous things that are complete lies. And yet, the only people who are calling him out are the people who don't support him. And by the time they call him out, he said something else outrageous. It just lurches from one ridiculous statement to another. And in a way, it's kind of genius. But before that election, I remember hearing a guy on the radio over here, and he'd written a biography about Trump, and I remember his words, and it seemed to have been proven correct. He said, "I'm not sure that being president of the United States is big enough to fill the hole in Donald Trump's ego."
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you, Brian. It's great talking to you. I love your passion. I see your posts on Facebook. You post very passionately on your politics, and your autobiography. Can we find that online?
Yeah, it turned out to be a kind of fruitless exercise. You can get my audio book on Amazon, which is Nasher Says Relax. I recorded it myself, and as a man who must be very used to editing his own audio, you know how horrible and hateful that is. I would like to sit there in a room and read my own audio book when all the creativity has already been done.
Right.
So if your listeners have enjoyed listening to me talk, then the audio book is kind of the way to go, because it's like sitting up across the bar from me, and we're having a chat. It's quite cool.
So people,
and they say the music's out there. You can find me. Go and look at Nasher and the Soldiers of Love and melt your face.
So people,
we do a nice version of Maximum Joy.
Great.
Power of Love. Yeah.
Okay, well, people, so Joe, go check him out. Just Google him. Google Brian Nash. Google Nasher. That's all you need. Also, keep listening to my show. You can find over 750 episodes at coopertalk.net, Twitter at CooperTalk, Instagram at CooperTalk1. Remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guests. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you next week.